Welcome to our executive interview series at the UiPath on Tour Public Sector Conference presented by FedScoop. I'm Wyatt Cash, and I'm here with Conrad Stosz, Director of Artificial Intelligence in the Office of the Federal CIO for the Executive Office of the President. Conrad, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking, I'm sure you see a wide landscape of AI trends, but what emerging trends in AI and automation are you most excited about, and how do you see them impacting the public sector?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we've seen tremendous advances in large language models, frontier AI systems, which there's a lot of hype around it, but I think there's actually some reason to believe that it has a lot of potential for the public sector in particular. And federal agencies across the government often are dealing with a lot of unstructured text data. Sometimes large backlogs of many documents that they have to get through or write or do other various tasks. The large language models have actually been pretty effective at making progress. So not only has there been a lot of technological development and advancement in the last couple of years, but also advancement that could very well map onto the federal use cases, the types of tasks that federal government agencies are dealing with. Another really interesting aspect of these models is that it seems like it can really reduce the barrier of entry to experimenting with certain types of AI applications. In the past, we used to have to, if we wanted to do a pilot for some government AI use case, we tended to have to clean a lot of data, get a really solid training data set, get all the data to look the same system, train the model from scratch, and only then could you start to assess whether it would even work in practice. I think one of the benefits of these models is that you can shortcut that, start with a pre-trained model that is widely applicable. Maybe it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, but there's a lot that can just be done with these base products that can be acquired for an agency as a whole, for example, and then start experimenting early, and if that works, put more effort into cleaning the data, fine-tuning the model, building a better capability. So I'm really interested to see how that works and how that opens up a lot of innovation. I shouldn't stop without saying also, there's risks involved with these systems, of course. OMB has policy out there that is giving agencies sort of a framework for how to address these risks. But also, of course, it doesn't actually reduce or it doesn't actually remove the issues around data. Agencies still, to use these systems, are going to need to have better data, are going to need to clean their data. There's still a lot of challenges. And they're going to need to figure out how to assess what is good enough. If you're summarizing 10,000 documents, what is a good enough summarization? And what might issues look like if it doesn't work as well for people for whom English is not their first language? We really need to make sure that we're doing the relatively complicated work of ensuring that these nuanced tasks like summarization or writing documents are actually doing a good job or representing the government effectively and the decisions that it needs to make, and that it's allowing us to serve all people across the country.
Those are some very interesting points. And then lastly, for government agencies that are just starting to explore AI and automation, what advice would you give them about ensuring a smooth and effective implementation?
Yeah, so OMB has a lot of advice for this, some of it actually binding direction through the policy that we released at the end of March that addresses a range of areas for federal agencies in terms of how they govern AI, in terms of how they strengthen AI innovation in their organizations, and in terms of how they manage their risks. So there's a lot of guidance there that includes selecting AI leadership, designating a chief AI officer, removing barriers to the use of AI in areas like IT infrastructure, access to tools, cybersecurity approval processes, and also managing risks, in particular putting concrete safeguards in place for those higher risk uses of AI that pose a concrete potential risk to the rights or the safety of the public. But it's also important to note there's a lot of requirements there, a lot of new actions there, a lot of change there, but we are also sending a strong signal that we want agencies to be experimenting. We want agencies to be trying things out. We specifically direct agencies to be experimenting with AI, and particularly with generative AI. And we really think that while there's new risk management requirements that agencies are going to have to comply with, that should enable them to some extent, that should give them a framework to show and build trust to the public that they're doing this responsibly, and that they can actually do risk management, not simply be afraid of the technology, but accept that it's here to stay, that there's a lot of opportunities, and that if they do their homework and they're careful about managing the risks, that it can be really effective for improving public services.
It makes a lot of sense. Well, Conrad Stosz, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to join us here at the UiPath on Tour Public Sector Conference.
Thanks so much.